Hello everyone, welcome to the session introducing Fleet Manager. This session is going to be presented by Chris Shelmerdine. So over to you, Chris.
Lovely, thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and I hope you're having a really great Nodes 2025. My name is Chris Shelmerdine. I am one of the lead product managers for the core Neo4j database with Neo4j. My area of responsibility is the administration of Neo4j. And I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce a new product that's now available for you to use called Fleet Manager. Something we've been working on for the last year and a bit, but the architectural principles of it we've been working on for a number of years. Helping me out today, answering any Q&A. We've got Pramod in the back who'll be on the channel answering any chat questions that pop up. So we've heard an awful lot about the emerging use cases with knowledge graphs, with Gen AI, all of the data intelligence stuff, all of the great use cases and fantastic customer stories we've heard today about how Neo4j is being used and evolving. And it means that when Neo4j is being run today, it can be run in many different ways and in many different places. It can be run as a fully managed service in our AuraDB offering. It can be run for large corporates as the Enterprise Edition software, either in the cloud or potentially in your own on-premises Enterprise Edition deployments. We even have our Community Edition software, which offers some capabilities. And what's not on the diagram here as well is our desktop developers tool, sort of self-contained package that you can run on your own PC. So Neo4j can be run in many, many different ways, many different places. And as the number of Neo4j deployments increases, certainly for enterprises, but also for individuals, the need to keep tabs on what's going on and have a central view of this is important. So our challenges that we have today, or our customers have today, our users of Neo4j, are it becomes complex when you're in a hybrid mode where you might have one or two AuraDB fully managed instances. You might run some stuff in on-prem, you might run some stuff in cloud, you might have multiple clouds. Each environment can have its own separate monitoring, its own backup, its own upgrade workflows. So administration, observability, operations of that in these disparate environments can become onerous and challenge for people to look after within the whole estate or the fleet. And so it can give rise to inconsistent compliance and rising costs and other challenges. So what we have introduced is a concept of Fleet Manager, which is a centralized location, a centralized control plane where you can register all of your Neo4j deployments in one place to give you a centralized management capability, regardless of whether your deployments of Neo4j are in the cloud or if they're in an on-prem environment. We have proactive monitoring. You can see insights across the fleet, the health of the fleet, some performance metrics for enterprise deployments, and some operations as well. This obviously is looking at the overall architecture where we want to get to as time moves on. So it's a mixture of management, monitoring, and operations from one central place for all of your Neo4js, regardless of where they are. Apologies. So what we want to be able to do is provide this central control plane via the cloud. And use the Aura console as our central place, where you can log into the Aura console and you can have your AuraDBs, which will be already present for you in the Aura console, but you can add to that self-managed enterprise editions, desktop editions, community editions to give you that holistic view. It'll allow you to apply, a consistent approach to administration, lifecycle security, and control costs and compliance within your organization. As I said, this is an evolving journey. Our V1 is available today. We released this a few weeks back. It's available for everybody to use inside Aura. And I'll take you through a little demo of what we can do with the product in a moment or two. But what our V1 offering offers you is that single view of all of your Neo4j deployments in one place, whether it's already B, if it's self-managed, whether your V4 LTS, version 5 of Neo, version 2025 of Neo, whether your Enterprise Edition, Community Edition, even desktop is supported. You'll be able to see the status of these deployments, check the configuration, see what plugins are installed, summary of the license information where it's applicable in Enterprise, information about the versions that are in use. And from a monitoring perspective, where we have Enterprise Edition running, we have metrics. So we can display some simple out-of-the-box dashboards for metrics, and also visual and textual views of the deployments and the topology and their status. And also as an added bonus, and we've seen some other demos, or we will see other sessions on this as well during nodes, as we're in the console, we can use the console tools, our query tool, our explore tool, our new dashboards tool, with those self-managed deployments as well. Coming to the solution at V1, it's quite light. There is a good amount of stuff here to start with. The benefit of offering this through the central control plane rather than as a piece of software that you could install yourselves is that as we add features throughout the roadmap, throughout 2026 and beyond, those features just turn on for you in the console. There's very little work, if any, work for you to do to take advantage of new capabilities that we bring in throughout the roadmap. So enough of the slides. Let's have a look at the product in action and see what it's like. So I have logged into Aura here. I'm in a VDC, or a virtual dedicated cloud, and I have 2 Aura instances, and this is our R&D project. So I have 32 self-managed deployments registered in this fleet. A real mixture here of community, enterprise, version 4, 5, 25, etc. We have filtering. We can filter on the status of them, the version. We could see what community edition deployments we've got registered by applying that filter, easily reset it. We've got to look at the packaging, who registered it, and what the state is. We can also check for any issues like outdated plugins and apply a filter. Now, I know my systems start with CS because I've sort of put some labeling in to make them easy to find. So we can apply that CS, and then I can also switch to a graphical view, a graph view, and I can see hierarchically or otherwise my whole fleet in a graph. We can click on each of those nodes and pull up the side panel, or apply a filter and say, actually, what's this degraded cluster that we see? And we can expand that and see the overall deployment, the 6 servers that are running in that deployment, and click on those individual things. We also have a card view to look at each individual item as well. This provides a little bit more information on screen. It's familiar for people that are used to the Aura console. We have some embedded metrics. We can see details of the server, and lo and behold, we have one of our servers is offline and unavailable. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Just a quick flick through some of the other stuff. On inspection pane, we have a summary of the system, our security token that's in use. I'll talk about that in a minute. The licenses of Neo4j. We can see the summary of the key Neo4j configuration settings that are in effect. As there are 6 servers in the cluster, we have entries for all of the servers, and we can even see the plugins that are in use, and the fleet management plugin is listed there. We also have a details pane, which is more of a tabular view with search and sorting capabilities, again, our offline server, and we could look at the databases. But we have an offline server. We can see that's on .185 IP address. So I'm going to jump out to that machine, and you can see for the purposes of the demo, I just stopped Neo4j on that server for the cluster. So I'm just going to ask that service to start back up again, restart Neo4j on that machine, and jump back. As Neo4j starts up, it will also start the Fleet Manager plugin, and our health, which is reported by the show servers, will suddenly come back as showing as available, and our status is running. So we can see once things come back to normal, we're in a good place. I mentioned observability and metrics. Again, you can choose between all of the different fleet members you have. I'm showing here the largest of the clusters that we've got registered. This is a 19 server cluster. and we can see that we can change the time range. If there's too much detail, we can zoom into that or expand the chart. Interactive legend here, so we can enable, disable data series, click to zoom, and lots of interactivity there on the CPU usage chart. We switch across, we have extra tabs. We have an instance tab, which is focused on the JVMs. Each of these charts have multiple options, or some of them have multiple options, and so we can switch between and look at the opened connections, etc. And then we can also look at the database metrics, and we can choose which database to look at. Big Media is reporting nothing because it's one of our new InfiniGraph logical databases, but if we switch to the graph shards, we can see those are running on 6 of the 19 servers, whereas if we switch to one of the property shards, we can see that that's only running on 2 of the servers. And so you have that dynamic capability. Rushing through this one, how do I get started? How do I get my stuff into Fleet Manager, my deployment? So we log into Aura, we go to the instances page and choose self-managed, and there's an add deployment button. We have the option to monitor deployment, that's full Fleet Manager. There is a URL connection option, which we won't talk about. It's a lightweight version without the full monitoring capabilities. So I choose a name and I enter a connection URL for a demo a little bit later on, which importantly is a LAN local address, not a public IP cloud address. I'll talk about security later. How do we get Fleet Manager onto my Neo4j on my Raspberry Pi, showing in the Aura console? I download a plugin, I install it, standards as we would do with APOC, I restart the server, and then I check that it's running. To save time, I've done the download, the install, and the restart in advance. Just to show you here, we've got the plugins folder contains the Fleet Management plugin and APOC. And if I have a look at my Neo4j conf file, you'll see that I've followed the instructions that were on the page, and we can also set the security procedures to allow any procedure in APOC or Fleet Management to be executed. So the restart has happened, and to make sure that Fleet Management is running on this machine, we can call one of the Fleet Management procedures. And we'll call status and see what we get back. And it will tell us that it's disabled, use the register token to get started. So that means that Fleet Management is running, or Fleet Manager is running on that machine, but it's not being given a security token yet to connect to Aura with. So we'll generate a token now. We can choose whether we want 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. We can leave auto rotate token turned on, so I don't have to go and do this every 3 months. And it will generate a token for us, which is unique to this deployment and unique to this Aura project that we're in. A handy copy to clipboard for the command that I need to apply that to my local deployment. Drop back into Cypher Shell, and then I run that procedure, which registers the token I've been given, and that installs that onto that Neo4j Raspberry Pi deployment, and it says it's now up and running, it's been registered to, and it gives you the Aura project just as a belt and braces double check that it's gone to the right place, should you be concerned. When we come back now into Aura, we can see my Raspberry Pi has started reporting. I know its version, its edition, its packaging. It's got 13 databases on it. I can see some information about the server. It's not a cluster, it's only a single server. And I can look at the inspect pane, and as before, I can see information about this particular thing. This is an old Raspberry Pi, it's been kicking around for ages, and the eval expired, and I need to do something proper about that. But those are the 2 plugins that we saw earlier running on this. Now, I mentioned we can use the dev tools. So to save a bit of time, I've connected prior to this demo to the Raspberry Pi, and I've connected to the Big Movie database with a query tool, and I can run query as if I was using local browser on that Raspberry Pi. The connection is from my PC to the Raspberry Pi. It has not gone anywhere near the public cloud. The only public cloud involvement is downloading the console to run on my client PC browser, web browser session. And from there, the connection is client local from a security perspective. We can also use Explore, formerly known as Bloom, and we can have a look at our Tom Hanks movies. This is a larger movie set. And we can even explore the new dashboards capability that we have. And we can generate a new dashboard with AI. We'll stick with the big movies for now and ask it for a summary of Tom Hanks movies. The key part with this is that all of the dev tools, the query, the explore, the dashboards, work on your locally managed deployment via a local connection, regardless of the version, the edition that is running. And we can see here our starter for 10 dashboard has popped up. Forrest Gump is the most popular Tom Hanks movie. Who would have guessed? And we have other information. So it's just showcasing not just the fact that we have these lovely new tools like dashboards, but also showcases the fact that we can make these tools run over self-managed deployments that we've registered in Fleet Manager via the Aura console. So that was a very fast, apologies for the whistle stop timing on that one, but we're a little tight for time today. But a quick flip through all of the capabilities, or a vast majority of the capabilities we have in Fleet Manager today. So, sorry, I'm going to skip to the next slide. How can you get started? This looks great, Chris, but how do I actually do it myself? Well, the good news here is it's free. We don't charge you anything for using Fleet Manager. All you need to get started is a Neo4j Aura account. If you've got an Aura account already, maybe with a FreeDB in it, you can use that account that you have today, and you can add your self-managed instances to it by going to the instances page in the Aura console and clicking on the self-managed tab and get started and follow the instructions. If you have yet to have an Aura account, you can get an Aura account set up for free. You don't need to use any Aura DB instance as part of this. When you do the sign up process, you say you're here for self-managed monitoring or something like that in the options for why you're here, and it won't ask you to create an Aura database. So there's no charge to use this at all. We've spoken a little bit how you get registered with the self-managed process today. It's install plugin, request the token, register the token. Aura DB instances, if you use them, are automatically part of Fleet Manager. We will be improving this in 2026 so that the plugin is no longer required. It will be automatically included in the most recent versions of Neo4j. So it's an even simpler even easier process to get started with Fleet Manager in the future. Now, I've mentioned security in passing. It would be remiss of me not to give this lots of care and attention. So bear with me on a couple of slides whilst I explain some of the key security points. Obviously, when I added that token to my Raspberry Pi, it sent a whole bunch of data across and displayed it in the console. So this is sending data from the self-managed deployment to the Fleet Manager service. So the key points to remember here is it's bound to an Aura project. So the deployment you add is added to an Aura project, and that Aura project itself has its own security principles, its own members, its own roles, and it's all tied down with the Aura console and Aura project capabilities and security systems that we have in play. Each deployment also is issued with its own token. If it's a cluster of Enterprise Edition, you only need one token for the whole cluster, not one for each server. And that is an encrypted token that links that deployment to that Aura project. And when the connection is established, that is the authentication and authorization for connecting and sending the data into the Fleet Manager service. The connection that is made is a secure connection. It's made to a TLS 1.3 SSL endpoint, and it's fully encrypted for security of the data as it's sent through. And a key point here is the connection is only ever initiated from the self-managed Neo4j deployment. We never reach out from the Fleet Manager cloud service into your Neo4j deployment, because that would require complex networking configuration. So it's always initiated by your Neo4j deployment. We had a quick whistle-stop tour through using the tools. Again, the tools are available through the Aura console, and the Aura console roles in the project can determine who has access to the tools, and it's tied in with the Aura security again. The connection that is made is from your console client session on your client PC to your self-managed deployment. We never connect from Aura to your deployment from the cloud into your self-managed deployment. So if you remember, when I set up the Raspberry Pi, we put in a Class C local address, a LAN address for my home PC. So when I recorded the video, I was on my PC at home, on my laptop at home, and I was connecting to a Raspberry Pi under my desk. None of that communication for showing the query for the Explore or the dashboards went anywhere near the cloud. So it's purely local connection for security. When we connect to that Neo4j deployment, we're using that Neo4j deployment's authorization and authentication methods. So what's set up in that Neo4j deployment around role-based access control, single sign-on, whatever else is all available, and Neo4j controls that connection security. And as with everything in terms of logging on Neo4j, it's exactly the same. The security log, the query log, all of that lot is as if you were connecting from any other tool or driver into Neo4j at that particular point. The data that is collected. This was also another area where sometimes people are concerned. The key point here, number one, is we never collect any graph user data. So we never connect to or look at the contents of your data graph. This is purely a metadata collection activity. We only send metadata from the self-managed deployment, never any user data. The documentation, which is available on neo4j.com/docs under the Aura documentation as a fleet manager section, that details what data is sent when you add a deployment to Fleet Manager with the plugin and with the token. So there's a detail in the documentation of what data is sent. If that's not enough, you can go to the deployment where you've added the plugin, and there's a procedure we provide in the plugin that you can run that will output to the screen the information that that plugin is going to send, not necessarily the individual data elements, but the schema of data which is going to be sent back as part of the reporting to Fleet Manager. And if you really want to be belt and braces on this, you can even put Fleet Manager into debug mode. And that means every time the data is collected and sent back to Fleet Manager, a copy of that same data is written down into the Neo4j log files, and you can view at your own discretion what data we are getting back. In terms of data and transparency, we want to be completely open about this so that it's easy to discuss. And we're very, very clear about what data we are collecting, and the use for that data is purely from a metadata angle. Who is Fleet Manager for? And this is sort of coming up towards the end of the session now. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is available for anybody to use. It's applicable from the smallest fleet of a single Neo4j Community Edition deployment, or even a desktop deployment if you wish, all the way up to the largest enterprises with multiple complex clusters and everything in between. So it doesn't matter how big you are, whether you're just starting with Neo4j, whether you're a fully fledged, mature, long-standing enterprise customer of Neo4j. You can use it with desktop as well. Obviously, it doesn't make as much sense to use it with desktop, but it is supported if you want to see every single deployment of Neo4j in your fleet, including desktops. That capability is there. Whether you're evaluating Neo4j, long-term project, doesn't matter. Whether you have fully managed AuraDB instances, you're self-managed in the cloud, or you're on premises, this is applicable. You can use Fleet Manager for free. We support version 4.4 and later versions. So the version 4 long-term support release is due to go end of support at the end of November, as it stands today. So that will be supported beyond the end of November for Fleet Manager as well, because not everybody will have the opportunity to upgrade to version 5 before then. We also support version 5 and the latest Calver versions. Enterprise Edition, Community Edition, Desktop Editions. It doesn't matter if it's a massive multi-server cluster or a little lightweight CE deployment, and it doesn't matter how you've deployed it, whether it's in Docker, whether it's via an RPM, whether it's in a Windows deployment. As long as you can add that plugin to the deployment of Neo4j like you would with APOC, you can use Fleet Manager. The one caveat to all of this is, as long as you are happy to reach the cloud from that deployment, we are aware there will be some sensitive customers out there, sensitive prospects out there who have a no cloud policy. In this case, fleet management may not be the right solution for you, but we can have a conversation. And as I mentioned, the final piece here, it is free. Use an existing Aura account if you have one. If you don't have one, it's free to sign up. Go to near4j.com, follow the sign up for Aura, and follow the flow that takes you here. I'm here for ops management. You don't need to set up or pay for or do anything about AuraDB instances, although we would suggest you try out AuraDB free or maybe a pro trial if you want to, but you don't have to. Final ask here, because this is the sort of the wrap up for the session. Please feel free to give it a go, try it out and let us know. In the Aura console, there is a feedback via Canny icon up in the top right-hand corner, or reach out to us via any of the usual Near4j feedback channels. And at that stage, I'm hoping we have the questions answered. On-prem enterprise accounts. Scott asked that quick question. For air-gapped customers, I mentioned people who cannot or will not use the public cloud for regulatory or compliance reasons. Fleet Manager may not be the right solution. We have another tool in the portfolio called Near4j Ops Manager, or NOM, which remains our solution for enterprises that are air-gapped for now. We will look at the situation throughout the roadmap and see whether it's possible to provide a self-hosted version of Fleet Manager in the future for those folks who cannot use our cloud solutions. And with that, that's the end of this session. Hopefully you found it all interesting and engaging. Please give it a go and let us know your feedback. Thank you very much.